Hey guys, uh, thought I'd put together a quick clip here on this home switch I'm putting on my X-axis. Before I go any further on this, I thought I'd mention I had actually planned on going back here and putting it on the rear um, of the table. I did a few calculations on a few things, different paths the table will be on for operations that I'm going to be doing. There was a few times it would have came in contact with the ribs here of the brace for the column. It would have eliminated probably right around an inch to an inch and a half of travel on Y. Those that don't know, the X2 is pretty scarce on Y travel as it is. It's 4 inches, 5 inches, I believe it is. So you got 2¼ inches or so from center in both directions. So rather than doing that, I decided to bring it up here in the front. What I'll have to do here, it could be pretty much placed anywhere on the mill, but what I'll do here is in Mach 3, I'll go into my ports and pins and enable positive on X, while Y and Z will be negative on the pin. Your positive is to your table being to the right or to your left. Left being negative, right being positive. And it actually will work out much better here in the front, because it being in the front of the table, there'd be less chance of coolant getting up into the switch. I shouldn't have to worry about that anyways, but if it would, there's less of a chance being where it's located here rather than would have been on the back of the table, where there's more flood up in the center to the back of the table than there is actually in the front. If you look close at it, I don't know if you can see it or not here. Sorry about that. But I still have access to my Gibbs screws as well to tighten my Gibbs up, so them's not going to be in the way whatsoever. Same as the other switch, I got travel vertically here for my striker, and I have travel horizontally here. I did have to notch the top of it here a tad. Put it in the vise, threw it on the mill, and just hit it a few times with the 3/16 and wrong that down flush. As you can see, it's nothing pretty to look at. I made it out of scrap rather than cutting up a piece of good material. And that's something else I wanted to go over on right here. Probably, if you had noticed, why my standoffs has got these nuts behind it here. So I'll go over that now so you know. What happened is when I ordered these couplings, excuse me, I ordered these couplings from Keeling Incorporated. That's where I'm getting all my CNC equipment. My control panel, the CNC controller, 540. That's where I got my stepper motors, these couplings, the E-stop, power supply, parallel port cable, what have you. But the ones that I had ordered, I think they were 1 inch around radius, and they were discontinued. Evidently they didn't have their site updated, so they sent me these. These are actually a little bit larger as far as the radius. They're I believe a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch bigger around, which is fine. I have plenty of space that direction, but they are additionally 3/8 of an inch or so longer, and I had already cut my standoffs for the other ones, so I temporarily just put these bolts or these nuts on the back side of them as a spacer. Now that I got them, and once I get all my home switches all installed, get them wired up, I'll come back and I got the hex now to cut these, and I'll come back and cut these and change these back out to where they're solid like this one here. Just want to make note of that so people can see that I'm not trying to cut corners here. It's just temporary. I do things right. I don't do things half-assed. I take my time and thoroughly think things out. Do it right the first time. Majority of the time you never have to worry about having to fix nothing then or what have you. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and get this put back together. And get the cover all put back on it and everything. Then I'm going to get over here on this Y-axis. Get started on that one there. Should be a piece of cake. Hi guys, just wanted to put another clip together here. I'm going to install on these home switches. I got my Y-axis done now. Finally. Works quite well. I'll run it back and forth here a few times. You can hear it engage and disengage. Hopefully you'll hear it. They're disengaged and disengaged. Works quite well. This one here won't pose much of a problem at all with the coolant because where it's located underneath the table. Shouldn't really have much of a problem with that anyways. That gasket's on the covers. Once you get the wiring all done, you can get them all tested and everything in Mach 3. So get that all set up. I'm going to come back and remove these covers. Run a bead of silicone on the inside where the wires will come in at, and a bead of silicone around the wire on the outside. Should pretty much prevent water coming in that way. I want to point one thing out here. If anybody does theirs like mine, like I did mine, you might want to know this. These two screws here that I put in, I went about 3/8 of an inch into the saddle. You really don't want to go any further than that because it comes pretty much straight in contact with your dovetail. You want to avoid even getting close to your dovetail. Cause a burr on that, and then your screw, if you draw your screw in too tight, obviously it would tighten up on your dovetail. You don't want any wreak havoc on your ways. Another thing I think I forgot to put together on this last one, on this X-axis, I forgot to actually run it across so you guys could hear it trigger as well. I'll go ahead and do that right now. You can see that I've got the cover back on her. Down here you might be able to see it even. I doubt you'll be able to see it, but there she just engaged and disengaged. And you heard it or not, disengaged and disengaged. I actually have about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch more travel if I want to go that route, and I'll just slide the switch this direction. The striker would stay right where it's at, and I just slide the switch. That's not nothing to worry about. I'm not going to be too concerned about that. And as you can see here on my Y, the angle difference here, I just ran put a 1032 nut on the back side, so I would bring that up pretty much level with the bottom of the saddle. My striker is on an angle a little bit, but it appears to be working fine, so I really won't worry about it. Another one, quick one together here. I don't know if you can hear that or not. You see I got ample room between my cover and ball screw there, so plenty of room there, won't be no problem there. And as I mentioned with the table, the moisture would be running off the edge of it. Not even so much here because my tooling plate actually comes out here further. Same in the back. When I put the tooling plate back on, I'll probably run it flush with the back. This will be pretty much my final setup. I'll be putting together a couple more short clips on getting these wired up. Yeah, probably be within a week or so, if I'm lucky. Hey y'all, I wanted to put a final video together here prior to installing my tooling plate and finishing up these wiring here on these. As you can see, I got wire looms I put on here now, retainers. It's not wired up yet. As you can see here, the wire is just hanging loose, just setting up in there just for guides. I'm going to put that wiring cover over top of all this. This is chemical resistant shield over top of it, but I'm going to do that just for a second peace of mind, I suppose you'd call it. If you notice and look close at it, the wiring is actually away from the mill. This prevent condensation. Mold or mildew or whatever, what have you, could get in there. So that would pretty much prevent that from getting caught up in there. These ones here, this is a steel plate here. I didn't actually run through the bottom of the table on this. I just removed this plate. Drilled and tapped them holes. Them are 1032s as well. All these are all 1032s besides the 440s here. One thing I wanted to note too, if somebody would kind of do it the same way I'm doing it. As I had mentioned on the saddle down here, when I drilled these two holes, I went approximately about a 3/8 into the saddle, so that way it's actually not getting into the dovetail. You don't want to get into your dovetail. You don't want to alter any of the dimensions in there as far as stressing it out, the joints or anything. The screw could get caught in there and you'll have to wind up taking it all back apart and eventually lap all your tails then. Same applies up here. I went approximately 3/8 on these 3 screws here, so it don't get into my dovetail on my x-axis. I'll keep this one here fairly short. I don't know if I mentioned or not for sure at the beginning the difference between in Mach 3 setting up your positive and negative reference, and on my Z and my y-axis will be negative. Negative being left, positive being right. This switch will obviously home to the right of the table. So what you do is I got to go into configuration of my ports and pins and enable positive. If not, it'll want to home the other direction versus the correct direction of positive. That's just something I want to point out. If somebody did theirs this way, that they would keep that in mind too when they go to configure all their ports and pins. As far as setting the soft limits and everything, I'll go over that after I get it all set up and done. There'll probably just be one more short clip. Excuse me. Well, what I call short anyhow, clip. Wiring these up. It'll be fairly simple. There's just 2 wires. You got your negative, and then the other wire runs to NC on the on the home switch. It's normally closed is what it stands for. I do have the wiring running. How it's going to go. It's running up to my tube here, and it runs up to this tube here. I'm not sure if you can see or not. This one here comes out here is for the Z-axis. Then there's two more that run up through here, and these come over here. Started to get them run here. This is where my wires will run up for my home switches here. I haven't got none of that finished yet. I'll probably have to extend that one, remove that terminal, strip over one of the other. I need to order a little bit more home switch wire. But other than that, I'm just about good to go as far as that goes. Like I mentioned, I'll put one more short video together on this. I'm sure this is probably getting rather boring for some of you. Once I get that video all done, then I'm going to go into the group of videos, wiring up these stepper motors and getting these all wired up correctly, and soldering all them DB9 connectors and getting them shells all put on there. I've ordered the Getco G540 CNC controller. Everything. I should have that here probably within a week and a half or so. That's on back order, so I got to wait for that yet. But they got a P4 board. They got a new board for it. Getco has a new breakout board or something like. I'm pretty sure it was called the breakout board. It was something was changed on it. I believe it has something to do with the spindle control. I'm not positive on that. I hadn't read up on it too much about that, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.